forward.
Which Michael videotaped and edited, I may say.
But it's aside from that, it was the help from members of the community that really helped make that video what it was. We've got more than a dozen now regularly produced local series. Most of those actually are filmed in our studio, where we just installed new lighting. So folks are utilizing that. We also installed a new podcast suite, and we're really excited to say that the City of Concord is amongst the first to really take full advantage of that, with Susie Pegg and Stephanie Breton and Matt Walsh all kind of coming in and putting together a city podcast now, and we're really excited to have that available, and we've got more and more people interested all the time coming in, so thanks to them for their pioneering work on that. We're continuing to cover as many events as we get to. We're a pretty small staff, but we do our best when something is happening in the city. You probably see us, and we might annoy you for a question, an answer or two, but please don't be afraid of us, and we'll always make you look good, we promise. But we love having all of you talk about the wonderful things that are going on in the city. Really, you can be some of the biggest cheerleaders that we have for everything that's going on, and we love showing it off. We just put together a video for the Concord Capital Arts Fest that happened a couple weeks ago, and it was picked up by the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen. It's had, I think, over 2,000 views or something like that now, so it's exciting to be able to publicize a brand new event like that and bring some interest. And we're continuing to invest our capital grant and our budget dollars as wisely as we can. Again, limited staff, limited money, but we want to make sure we're not only keeping all our equipment up to date, so we're replacing our remote cameras this year. As mentioned, we changed over the lighting. We've got new training computers. It's really important to us, because of that small staff, to have volunteers from the community to come in, be excited, trained, and to be able to cover some of these events as well. But we're also looking to the future and recognizing that we and the city and the folks we represent have new needs. So we're looking at getting a drone, making sure it's fully insured, making sure that a couple of us can fly it without crashing into the city hall.
Pilot's license.
Good things like that. And also looking at remote and streaming solutions more and more. You can stream from your phone, but usually the quality is terrible. We're looking at broadcast quality streaming solutions so that we can bring more of the wonderful things that happen here live. So, for example, in just an initial test run, as you all know, Gene Connolly was a great friend of ours and a great friend in the community. We were approached by the school district, where we also have a great partnership, basically 2 days before, to see if we could stream the memorial service. We didn't really have everything that we needed to, but we put something together. We had that event live streaming. Over 700 people across the country could participate and feel a part of that ceremony. So we're improving that equipment. We'll be able to stream from just about anywhere really soon, and we hope that everybody in the community takes advantage of that. And with that, I want to pass it back over to Doris.
I'm going to wrap it up by saying that we're very, very fortunate to have such wonderful staff. They are just so passionate about what they do, and the quality and professionalism is probably some of the best in the state, and I'm very involved with other access stations across the state. So I'm very pleased, very proud of all of that, proud of what they've accomplished. And I'm going to remind you that Sunday, October 28th, I know Councilor Werner will be there as well. If some of, and you will be there also, Councilor Todd. So if any of you still want to jump in and be a part of it, let me know, all right? Because the more we have, the better. It's going to be an exciting day. We're dedicating it to Principal Gene Connolly, the day, and it's one of the only times where we have the school district and the city crossing paths as they come in and out as hosts. So if anyone has any questions, it's happening from noon to 8 p.m. on October 28th. It's Halloween weekend, so we'll have a few surprises that weekend, so that day. Any questions? We'd be happy to answer them.
Anyone?
Councilor Todd.
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, congratulations, and 20-plus more wonderful years ahead of you, hopefully. And it's a great accomplishment, especially considering the awards you've mentioned, that you've won recently, and I'm sure there's more of that to come as well. I was just wondering if you might just briefly speak about, you'd mentioned about being the liaison to the city, and I know that there was some filming done. My colleague, Councilor Shurtleff, and I participated in
Absolutely.
Pennacook in some filming that you're still working on putting together regarding sort of promotion for Pennacook, and if you could just briefly talk about that.
Oh, absolutely. So about a month ago, we did take a trip up to Pennacook where we featured both Councilors Shurtleff and Todd, and we talked to several business owners up in Pennacook and community leaders, really to try and highlight what a wonderful place Pennacook is. It's a unique little neighborhood within the city of Concord that I think sometimes people forget about the history that's there, the beautiful architecture that's there, the access to nature. It's one of the most amazing things to me in Concord. Again, I won an award for the trails thing. I love hiking. I love outdoors. Concord is an outdoors destination. It really is, and Pennacook is a gateway to being that destination. So what we're trying to do with this Pennacook video is really highlight what a great little neighborhood Pennacook is. It's a great place to live. It's a great place to run a business. It's a great place to recreate. And we want to, and part of our job, part of my job as the city liaison is working with our staff and then working with members of the city staff and those elected officials to kind of craft some of these messages about what is going on. That's great. And I was serious. If we can highlight Liberty as we go forward, and some of the training, and that's a great story for the city. And so what we're really trying to do with things like the Pennacook videos, these great stories here, and have it be a reason for people to be invested in the community, to recruit young people to the community and others in the community.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else? I'd just simply like to add congratulations. I think Council Todd already covered it, but congratulations on your awards. I think they're well deserved. I did have one question, comment question. So, as you know, so much of our finances relies on the franchise agreement fees we have with Comcast. But I'm also finding that so many more folks that I know are no longer cable subscribers. They are using their phones and computers and such. So the fact that you're moving to the live streaming and then moving towards the handheld, those type of things, I just thank you for keeping up with where people are going. I don't want to discourage people from subscribing, because helps our bottom line. But I think it's important to recognize that you have not just sat back and watched the world go by. You are keeping up and keeping ahead. And for that, I commend you to do that. So, Council Ballard, it's always great to see you, as always. And I would just add one last thing. Michael, if you need me, I will give you my cell phone. It appears that you are on with one Susie Pegg and Janice Bonifant at the same time.
I am.
I wish you well. If you need help, you call me.
I was on with Susie last year. It was
That
tricky.
is a very,
I heard Trump a few times, but it was all good.
all right.
It was all good.
If you need any help, you call.
I'm still looking forward to it. This is
Oh no, the audience is looking forward to it.
Stay tuned. We'll be on the stations. We'll be on YouTube too. So.
Yeah, and Stephanie
Tell your
Breton will be
friends.
on as well, so.
Yep.
Okay.
Couldn't get David Gill, I don't know why, but
Good to see you both.
He's a man of history.
thank you very much, thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Okay. So with that, it brings us to our consent agenda. We have 3 items to remove, 17, 18, and 20. Does anybody else want to need anything removed? Seeing none, is there a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the consent agenda without 17, 18, and 20. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The consent agenda is adopted. Madam Clerk, that takes us to our public hearings. And could you please read item 24A, please?
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title II Traffic Code, Chapter 18 Parking, Article 18-3 Parking Meters, and it's amending Section 18-3-14, Duty of Police. repealing 18-3-14 and adding a new section 18-3-18, parking encumbrance permits.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager.
Could I recommend that you do 24A and 24B at the same time, being that it's coming off the same report?
Yep. Anybody object to that?
No.
Madam Clerk, next one.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title I, General Code, Chapter 1, Government Organization by amending Article 1-5, Fees, Fines, and Penalties, and it's updating parking encumbrance fees.
Mr. Manager.
As the council's aware, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, the parking strategic plan was approved by the city council on December 11th. The plan recommended the ordinance governing issuance of these permits be revised and expanded to include the time zone regulated parking spaces as well as metered parking spaces. The plan also recommended the encumbrance fee be increased in order to bring the fee in line with the new meter rates. The encumbrance permit is also being amended to include situations in which an individual seeks to exclusively occupy a non-metered space beyond the designated time limit. In addition, the proposed amendments to the ordinance will provide clarification for the parking division and airing divisions concerning when such permits are required and which activities are exempted from such permits. The Parking Committee has recommended the adoption of the proposed ordinances to you for this evening.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the manager? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone who wishes to testify on either one of these first two items? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and Madam Clerk, the third item, please.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title II, Traffic Code, Chapter 18, Parking, Article 18-1, Stopping, Standing, and Parking, Section 18-1-24, Parking for Law Enforcement Vehicles.
Mr. Manager.
Madam members of the council, the Merrimack County Sheriff's Office contacted the city and requested that multiple on-street parallel parking spaces be created as part of the courthouse project and designated for law enforcement vehicle parking. The Parking Committee reviewed this request and noted that the city plans to meter Montgomery Street in fiscal year 2020. It also noted the state, county, and developer of the courthouse project previously committed to create public on-street parking on Montgomery Street as part of the project, and the creation of the law enforcement parking might conflict with that comment. After meeting with the committee, the Sheriff's Office revised their request so that only one parallel parking space immediately south of the Sally Port driveway would be reserved for law enforcement vehicles Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The Parking Committee voted to recommend the City Council approve the attached ordinance, which you have, along with the map, implementing this proposal. Glad to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wish to testify? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Madam Clerk, item 28, please.
It's a resolution accepting and appropriating the sum of $130,000 for residential granite curb cost sharing as part of the annual roadway surface improvements project, CIP number 78.
Mr. Manager.
Members of the council, the attached resolution is intended to identify money that is being received for granite curbing and to also appropriate any offsetting amount that can be used for future paving expenses. This is simply an accounting measure and a reporting measure different than what we've done in the past, but the money always used to come in and be reused for paving. We'd like to be able to continue that practice.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilor Hirschline.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Manager, I was wondering if you could explain to me how this program came about and why we have this particular program, why we're subsidizing private residences to put granite curbing in when it hasn't been determined that it's a citywide project.
So this predates me as manager and is, I think, an initiative put together by the city council.
It even predates me, so that's old.
So I think the idea was many times the city would go in as part of a project, as you stated, and if it was required as part of the drainage improvements or to improve the operation of the road, the city would install that. I believe over time, different homeowners approached the city and said, while you're out there, would you mind doing these additional improvements to beautify different areas? And the city council agreed at that time and agreed to essentially foot half the bill as it's going in.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishes to testify? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And the last public hearing this evening.
It's a payment in lieu of taxes agreement between the City of Concord and Briar Hydro Associates for Rolfe Canal Falls, Pennacook Upper Falls, and Pennacook Lower Falls.
Mr. Manager.
And members of the council, Briar Hydro Associates owns and operates these three hydroelectric generating facilities along the Kentucky River. The Rolfe Canal Falls project generates 4.283 megawatts. The Pennacook Upper Falls project generates 3.02 megawatts, and that is partially in Boscawen. And the Pennacook Lower Falls generates 4.11 megawatts, and that again is the majority of it is in Boscawen. The pilot agreement, payment in lieu of taxes, agreement is for 5 years, which is the longest you can go under state law, and begins April 1st, 2018, and ends March 31st, 2023. Total minimum annual amount to the city will be no less than $180,000. The previous minimum payment was $110,000. So this is, I think, good for both Concord and Boscawen, because Boscawen will do their own deal if they decide to do it. And we recommend the approval of this payment in lieu of taxes program.
Thank you very much. Any questions of the manager? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wish to testify? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Brings us to our action phase. Madam Clerk. Item 25, please.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title II Traffic Code, Chapter 18 Parking meters by amending Section 18-3-14, Duty of Police.
Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second. Motion made and seconded to approve this item. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, ready for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the ayes have it. Motion is adopted. Item 26, please.
An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title I General Code, Chapter 1 Government Organization, amending and updating parking encumbrance fees.
Move approval.
Second. Motion made and seconded to approve this item. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, ready for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is approved. Item 27, please.
An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title II Traffic Code, Chapter 18 Parking law enforcement vehicles.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve this item. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, ready for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the ayes have it. Motion is adopted. Madam Clerk, item 28, please.
A resolution accepting and appropriating the sum of $130,000 for residential granite curb cost sharing as part of the annual roadway surface improvements project.
Move approval. Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve this item. Is there a discussion? Councilor Ursulau.
Thank you, Your Honor. I certainly understand when we're doing a sidewalk or road project, Manor Road sidewalk, granite curbing was put in, along Route 3. It's a citywide project. The community, using property taxes and other revenue, all chips in. What I don't understand is why we should be subsidizing private homeowners who decide to have granite placed in front of their homes. I don't have any issue if a project is occurring and road work is being done and granite curbing isn't slated for that area. If a homeowner said, hey, while you're here, would you mind putting in some curbing? And because there'd be reduced costs, because a project is already in process, that those reduced costs be passed along. But I can't, I don't think I'm able, I know I'm not able to support a project or a program that subsidizes private citizens, individual citizens, because they determine perhaps they'd like some granite curbing in front of their houses and maybe their neighbors don't. So I won't be supporting this. I do understand the intent of it, but at this point, I won't be supporting it. Thank you, Your Honor.
Anyone else wishes to speak? Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm supporting this because what I view this as, we're putting granite curbing into public streets. It's not a private driveway that we're cost sharing, but this is actually going to public streets. And even in residential areas, if there's a curbing, it can benefit the longevity of pavement, so the side of the pavement doesn't break up if there's no curbing. So I view this as a kind of an opposite thing, is that we have citizens that are participating, paying for half of curbing that goes into the public streets. The other question what Councilor Hirschlag brought up, I thought it was kind of interesting because I don't remember any residents, and there could be, that this curbing project was independent of any improvement on the streets or roads. There might have been one in Concord, but when I've seen them, it's always in conjunction with an improvement on the streets or with the utility systems, and so they're doing some repavement on the roads. So I don't know if anybody has an answer of how many do we actually do, just independent of any site work. So anyway, I'm supportive of this, very much so, because actually the city's making out on this.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to agree with Councilor Cohen, and the word subsidize hasn't been defined. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Manager, but the homeowner pays for the granite totally, and the subsidy is the installation of the granite on the city road.
Right.
I'd like to know the answer to that.
That's exactly correct. You know, the homeowners are paying for all of the granite, and the city is doing the installation piece of it.
Right, so the homeowner is paying for the piece of granite. We're just installing it, if you want to consider that a subsidy. But we just redid the road by Broken Ground School, redid the road on Eastman Street, and the residents who wanted that paid for the granite. And I'd argue that that's, especially to the school, there's a lot of people from the public that drive around there, and there's a big public benefit for having the granite there, especially with cars parking on the side of the road during Election Day, et cetera. People don't want them parking up on their lawns. They prefer the granite. So I see this as something that benefits the public. Some people get it for free. You might want to argue, why are they getting it for free instead? So rather than voting against this, maybe you ought to look at the whole picture. But I'm being facetious, of course. But I think that this is a worthwhile project for the city to do.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Manager, so lost my train of thought.
Can I jump in?
Sure.
Okay, not that I'm in your train of thought, but this is money that we've received back that I need to then reappropriate so Chip and Jeff can go and do more paving. So if you don't approve this, you will have less paving done this year. Because this is money, we've already done the work, and the money has come back, and now I need to appropriate it.
And the only time that we do the installation, when the resident buys the granite, is when we're doing a road project in front of their house or business or whatever it might be, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So we're not disturbing other residents by putting something in. This is when we're doing a project, right?
When General Services goes and does a project, they let people know that the project's coming in advance, gives them the opportunity to participate, and if they'd like to buy the so essentially the cost, essentially half is labor, half is material cost, and that's how the work is done.
Go ahead. Mayor Pro Tem.
Just because this happens so much in my ward, what they'll do is just what the manager said, in advance of any paving project for the road, and then they're billed for the curbing. So a neighbor could participate. They don't have to participate.
So we'll go out on site, measure it with them, meet with the neighbor, explain here's where the granite would go, here's what approximately the cost is, and then we give them an amount of time to give us the money. And as a matter of fact, council visited this a few years back because some people don't have the money up front. So I think we did a quarterly payment plan.
Yes.
We instituted a quarterly payment plan so that people who wanted it but just couldn't get the money right up front could do it.
So I have a question of Councilor Todd. So Councilor Todd, the city did a significant amount of paving in your ward this year. And I was wondering if you got the same calls that I got. Many of your constituents were rather angry that they had to pay for this at all. And in fact, they wanted to know why the city wasn't funding the whole bill through their taxes, as opposed to, those are the calls that I got. Was that your experience?
Yes, you're correct, Your Honor. That's exactly the kind of calls that I received as well. And I'd add to that I know that General Services did a terrific job reaching out to the folks who live on Washington Street on an individual basis in many cases to both explain the program, and I think once, in fact, the program was explained to residents, they understood that they were getting quite a bit of benefit, and the city was as well. And also for those folks who felt that they needed some kind of additional curbing due to drainage issues, et cetera, and I know that General Services worked out a lot of special arrangements with some of those residents after re-reviewing their particular properties at issue, so.
Councilor Hirschlag.
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, if there's a benefit to the city, if it preserves the road, if it adds benefit to the paving program, then it should be a citywide project. It should be paid for citywide. I don't see why we're going and asking individuals to enhance or subsidize, whatever term you want to use, to pay for the labor cost of putting in curbing on certain areas and not in other areas. So again, if it benefits the project, and a determination is made that this is beneficial to the project, it is on city property, city right-of-way, then it should be borne by, by city costs, and we shouldn't be, I have an issue with asking individuals whether or not they want to chip in to help make a project better in one neighborhood, and in another neighborhood, another area of city, we've determined, or it's been determined, that all the cost will be paid for by the community. Thank you.
Councilor Todd.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I would advise my colleague, Councilor Hirschlag, to put in a call to General Services, because this is actually a somewhat complicated program to a certain extent, but I believe that there are some fine points involved in this that might change Councilor Hirschlag's mind about it. For example, I believe that the city's point of view is that no curbing gets installed when you're putting in roadways, except that curbing which has an effect on the drainage in the roadway. So basically, I was approached, as Your Honor reminded me, from several residents who were upset that no curbing was going in at all. They take pride in their neighborhood. They take pride in their streets, in addition to the property that they own, and they really felt a lot of times as a matter of pride that the city should be doing this. But there's a very good reason the city is not doing this, and why I would disagree with Councilor Hirschlag and not advocate for what he's recommending, because it would cost a ton of money. So I think having it done this way on a case-by-case basis, and as Your Honor pointed out, once you hit the street, you're going to be doing work on that street. All the residents have an opportunity to participate in this program. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, you all ready for the vote? Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mayor Boulay?
Yes.
Councilor Champlin?
Yes.
Councilor Cohen?
Yes.
Councilor Hirschlag?
No.
Councilor Kinnison?
Yes.
Councilor Kretovic?
Yes.
Councilor Mattson?
Yes.
Councilor St. Hilaire?
Yes.
Councilor Shirtliff?
Yes.
Councilor Todd?
Yes.
Councilor Werner?
Yes.
And Councilor Bouchard?
Yes.
Having received the necessary two-thirds, the motion is adopted. Madam Clerk, item 29, please.
It's the payment in lieu of taxes agreement between the City of Concord and Briar Hydro Associates.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve this item. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, ready for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the ayes have it. Motion is adopted. Madam Clerk, take us to reports. Item 30, please.
It's a presentation by the city planner on the Concord Next zoning code update.
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you.
How's the meeting go?
Went very well. We had about a dozen participants. Several of the counselors were there, some planning board members and members of our various committees and commissions. We had a few questions, and in general, there was a positive response. I think the main issue or the main concerns or questions people had were about the recommendations for setbacks and lot coverage, which I shared with the consultants, and they confirmed that, yes, we're going to have continuing discussions about whether or not those recommendations are going to work. So I've met with staff, I've met with planning board, I'll be meeting with the zoning board tomorrow night with a special meeting, and I'll be meeting with the chamber next week. So I have a little bit more public feedback to get. But one reason I also wanted to return to you is to see if any of you had a chance to look and had questions or comments or feedback, to give you an opportunity. Several of you shared some feedback with me at the public meeting, but if there's anything further you'd like to share, I can pass that on to the consultants. I do have more firm dates for when they're going to be coming, November 7th and 8th. 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, or the 4 days. They'll be coming in and leaving on the 9th. And we'll be having a public meeting either the Wednesday, the 7th, I believe, or Thursday, the 8th. We haven't firmed up which date. But that will be basically the public meeting where the consultants will be here. They'll present what they've done so far, and I think they're continuing to work on it. So they'll present any new information, or basically more of a fleshed out outline with more information in the outline. So that should be a good meeting. We're basically just going to have one meeting and invite everyone to it. So you'll be getting formal invite from me for that. Yeah, I'm kind of having ongoing conversations with them as questions arise. And so overall, I think it's pretty good. People are generally pleased with the direction that we're headed.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you as always. Okay, that takes us to no new business, no unfinished business. Any comments, requests by councilors? Councilor Rowe.
Thank you, Your Honor. Keeping with tonight's theme of granite curbing, I wanted to commend Chip Chesley and Jim Major and one other employee of General Services whose name now escapes me. I had a message from a constituent on Gilmore Street a couple of weeks ago, and General Services in the process of paving Gilmore Street, and the person that contacted me didn't think there was a miscommunication with their request for curbing along with the neighbors, and there was a third resident who thought maybe the measuring of the granite curbing in front of their house may have been wrong. And I contacted Chip and Jim Majors, and the next day they finally got a hold of the residents and they straightened it all out, and I know everybody on Gilmore Street is happy, and I just thought Jim and everybody went above and beyond the door, including going to these residents' homes and knocking on the doors, and everybody was very happy with the result. And I just want to thank Chip and please thank everybody else for the wonderful job.
Thank you. Councilor Slade.
Thank you, Your Honor. I believe it was 2 months ago we received a report from Robert Mack, the traffic engineer, regarding a sidewalk on Borough Road. And I'd just like to update some of that information in the report. I think around 2014, when one of the previous reports was done, there was interest in extending the sidewalk along Borough Road. At the time, we talked about going from Washington Street down to Village Road, Fisherville Road. And since that, we also had a Ward 2 meeting. Ed Roberge, who was the city engineer at the time, attended. Folks from both Ward 1 and Ward 2 were invited. Councilor Todd was invited. If memory serves me correctly, attended. And at that time, the consensus from the folks at the meeting was that the sidewalk, we should look at putting the sidewalk on the north side of Borough Road. Recently, our city engineer, David Cederholm, came out and walked that area with me from approximately Primrose Fowler Street down to Lilac. And what we found was that a couple of things is that there is a 50-foot right-of-way between Fowler and Lilac, not 33 feet like in the areas east and west, and that it appears at the time of our meeting a few years back, we talked about if there wasn't enough room between the telephone poles on the north side of the road, perhaps we could shift the road a bit to the south. But David suggested that it would be a lot less costly and a lot easier just to move some of those telephone poles a few feet back, and they would still be in the right-of-way of the city. One of the reasons for looking at the north side as opposed to the south side is people on the south side of Borough Road have always been concerned that if a sidewalk was put in on their side of the road, it would significantly impact the fronts of their property because a number of the houses are fairly close to the road. When you look at the north side of Borough Road and you look where the telephone poles are placed and you look where most of the houses are, putting a sidewalk in between the road and the telephone poles, even if those poles had to be moved 2 or 3 feet, appears that it wouldn't have a large impact on the property owners use of their land or that it would have an impact in crowding the front of their house. So I just wanted to update that by looking the information that was discussed at a Ward 2 meeting would not need to have any trees removed and would not need for any additional properties to be purchased by the city. Thank you, Your Honor.
That's great.
Just a question. When is that CIP project coming forward? Regarding the sidewalk on Borough Road? Because I don't recall
I don't
it.
have my CIP. Can you look it up?
I just don't recall it being in this budget cycle.
Do you have anything you want to add otherwise?
No, not real important. Thanks.
Council Chambliss.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to mention that we're holding a Ward 4 constituent listening session on October 24th, Wednesday, I believe, at 6 p.m. And in the Carriage House at the Kimball Jenkins Estate. Ward 4 is welcome. Anybody else is welcome as well. We'll be touching on the city's form-based code review, the work that the city planner just mentioned. And also, I just want to remind folks that In Town Concord is holding Halloween Howl on October 26th from 5:30 to 7:30 downtown. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Rumor has it you'll be serving dinner that night?
There will at least be sweets and apple cider. But drop by. Drop by if you're hungry.
Council Warner.
Thank you, Your Honor. I wanted to bring the community's attention to the some forums that are upcoming at the end of the month that have to do with the proposed solar ordinance. And so we want to get public comment on what the community would like to see in terms of further solar development in the city. So there will be two meetings. One will be on Saturday, October 7th at 10 a.m. at the Beaver Meadow Golf Club. And that will be followed by a meeting here in Council Chambers on the 29th, Monday the 29th at 6 p.m. So urge the community to come and learn about proposed changes to our zoning ordinance around solar, and certainly to weigh in and provide comment to what they'd like to see. And this will be promoted throughout the city, media, Facebook, so forth. So you'll be hearing more about it, but please attend.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Just, I think it's October 27th.
Did I say?
October 7th, which was 2 days ago.
October 27th and
Saturday
October
at the
29th.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Council Tuck. You all worked out amongst yourselves. Council Tuck.
Thank you, Your Honor. On October 17th at 6:30, the Pennacook Village Association will hold another of its public meetings. The purpose of the meeting is to finalize the vision statement for the organization and also to plan preferred events and activities that the community would like to accomplish. The Village Association would like to thank its prior meeting guests at the last couple of meetings it had, Stephanie Breton and Susie Pegg from the city, and also Kathy Bacon from the Chamber of Commerce, who all participated in the meeting as well. The point of this being that the organization feels you can't really have a vision statement without the community being involved, so everyone is welcome. Again, that's on October 17th, 6:30 at the Pennacook Elementary School Cafe on 60 Village Street. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Manager, do you have anything?
I have one item. The only thing I could see for, this is not it. The only thing I could see for sidewalks under CIP 17 is in 2022, $225,000 for a project to be identified. So they're just kind of like placeholders. And then I think the idea is to then identify, unless there's a...
If I may?
Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor. So the reason I brought it up was to update the report. And also, it's my understanding that Borough Road is going to be repaved. It's not going to be completely ground up, but it's going to have a top coat put on it, an overlay. My hope and the hope of many of my constituents who live in that area was that perhaps we could look at putting in a sidewalk at that time. So the issue wasn't that it was or wasn't in the CIP for this year. The issue was to, one, correct the record, and that there is a timeliness to this as there will be some work being done in that area next year. Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
So I have an item for the Concord Tree Committee. I'd just like to read a prepared statement. The Concord Conservation, just so I get it right, the Conservation Commission is establishing the Concord Tree Committee as an advisory subcommittee to the Commission to assist in the implementation of the city's street tree policy. The subcommittee will work with city staff from planning, parks and recreation, and general services. Initial goals of the subcommittee will include drafting an urban forestry plan, community outreach and education, identification of donations and grants, and assistance with revisions to city landscaping regulations. The subcommittee will consist of 7 regular members and 3 alternates, with the anticipation that there will be several non-voting volunteers to assist with certain activities. The Conservation Commission will send out requests for volunteers this week and anticipates nominating members in November. So if you have any interest, contact the Planning Department or the Conservation Committee.
Thank you. Okay, that's it?
That's it.
Perfect. That takes us to our agenda items that have been removed from the consent. So, Madam Clerk, item 17, please.
This was pulled from consent by Councilor Hirschlag. It's a report from the Parks and Recreation Director on behalf of the Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee regarding the Friends of Merrimack River Greenway Trail request to make improvements at Terrell Park.
Councilor Hirschlag.
Thank you, Your Honor. Last month, Merrimack River Greenway Trail organization gave a presentation about the first phase of the trail and the boardwalk that they hope to put in the overlook at Terrell Park. At the time, they discussed that the project was, I don't have the exact, $132,000 more than they anticipated, and was wondering if the city would be willing to contribute to that portion of the cost. Councilor Nyan asked that it be referred to Recreation Parks Advisory Committee, and that they come back with the project, that they would come back and show us what the project would look like without that additional $130,000. I had also asked what the cost of the project would be without paving, just leaving it with stone dust. Neither one of those questions is answered in the report that we received. And in addition, if I understand this correctly, they're asking for additional work to be done at the same time that would add additional costs. So I'm going to make a resolution that we do not accept this report until such time as the information that Councilor Nyan requested is provided to us.
You make it a resolution or a motion?
A motion, I'm sorry.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So we have a motion to reject the committee report from Parks and Rec, and I guess refer back to them.
Refer it back to them.
So we have that motion before us. Is there any discussion?
Is there a second? I haven't heard a second.
You're right. It's 8:04 and I like baseball, so apparently.
We're on fast track then.
Is there a second to the motion?
Your Honor, I'm going to second it because I do have a question. I'm not a
Okay, motion is made and seconded by the person who hates the Red Sox. Council Cohn.
Is there a member of TPAC that serves on the RPAC?
I was there at the meeting.
Okay, so my question is that...
Actually, you weren't.
We didn't make the meeting.
I was there.
Okay, because were those questions asked of RPAC, and if so, or if it wasn't, about the finances and the other subject matter that...
I can tell you, having listened to the presentation by the two, by the folks from the Greenway Trail, it's a citizen advisory, and I think that they listened. They talked about the overall impact of the, they asked a lot of questions about the overall impact of the area, the connections. They tried to understand the money phase, and I think their recommendation, and Mr. Gill can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but the recommendation was like, you know what, we feel that this request has is valid, and that we would recommend moving forward to the city manager. And really, it's then up to the city manager and administration to come back with a report for us to consider. And I think that that report would be the one that would answer Councilor Hirschlag's questions or Councilor Nyan's questions, where you have the expertise of the planning staff, the engineering staff, and everyone else that's necessary for the voices to be heard. So I think I'm not going to be critical of a Citizens Advisory Committee. I think that they looked at this, they considered all the facts, and I think that in terms of the park system and how this fits in, they wanted to, those who were in attendance were supportive. That's how I read the meeting. So,
Thank you, Your Honor.
Councilor Craven.
Thank you, Your Honor. With regards to the stone dust for the Merrimack River Greenway Trail, that has never been envisioned in this community, even going back to 1992 when the Conservation Commission initially was looking at putting a trail along the river. It has always been envisioned as a wide paved pathway from one end of the city to the other so that it can be used for multiple purposes, and to then change the plans to go to a stone dust base at this point in time would just totally flip what everybody had been working on since 1992. Thanks.
So if somebody wanted to make a motion to simply accept the report, it would be...
We already have a motion pending, Your Honor.
Motion to deny.
The motion deny.
Yes.
Yes.
So can I withdraw my second?
You can.
Did you see how, is that how we did that? Yeah. Listen, if you want to vote up or down, it's your, what do you want to do? You want to withdraw?
Yeah, I'll withdraw.
All right. Is there anyone else who wishes to second the motion? All right, seeing none, the motion is not accepted for failing to receive a second. Is there a subsequent motion?
Move approval.
Motion made and seconded to approve this item. So I'll just say, it's my understanding, by accepting this report, we are instructing the manager to come back to answer some of the questions that you referred to with the expertise from the professionals of the city staff. Is that everyone else's understanding? Mr. Manager, is that yours?
It is.
All right. And at that time, I think we'll have some of those questions answered and we can make a better decision. So with that, we ready? Councilor Hirschlag.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's my understanding that in the past, when we've approved reports, it was the understanding of the council that we only approved the report, we didn't approve the project. However, at times, the administration looks at, since the report was approved, why would we approve a report if we weren't interested in moving forward with it?
I think
so in
I'm
order
going to stop you because I don't see it the same way. I think it's we're accepting the report, number one. Number two, is that what you had? You're accepting the report? Accepting the report. So that was number one. Number two is there are several things that the Greenway Trail folks have actually come and requested from us. And I think we need to look at this in a more holistic approach. If you remember during the budget process, we were asked to do participate in an appraisal with dealing with the railroad. We're dealing with this project. I would hope and I would imagine that the administration would come back with a report that would be inclusive of everything and really, at the end of the day, pose questions to us as policymakers as to say, here are all the possibilities, what do you all want to do?
So,
does anybody see it differently than I do?
No.
Mr. Manager, do you see it differently than I do?
Yes, sir.
So again, my understanding is by accepting the report and not speaking to it, the consensus by some of our council members, by the council, was if you have a concern about it, you should speak up when the report is brought forward. That's what I'm doing. I have a concern that the questions weren't answered in this report. We're going to continue to move forward because we're accepting the recommendations that the city should partner with us financially. And that's why I pulled it, and that's why I will not be voting to accept it until I have the information that was requested at our last meeting. Thank you, Your Honor.
Vote. Pardon me.
We have a motion pending before us.
Question?
Yep. We have a motion pending before us. Motion is to accept the report. Motion been made and seconded. Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Mayor Bullock.
Yes.
Councilor Champlin.
Yes.
Councilor Cohen.
Yes.
Councilor Hirschlag.
No.
Councilor Kennison.
Yes.
Councilor Clutterbuck.
Yes.
Councilor Mattson.
Yes.
Councilor St. Hilaire.
Yes.
Councilor
Yes.
Councilor Todd.
Yes.
Councilor Werner.
Yes.
And Councilor Bouchard.
Yes.
And the motion is adopted. Madam Clerk, item 18, please.
It's a report from the Deputy City Manager in Finance, changing the scope of work for the Beaver Meadow Irrigation Project, CIP number 235. And this was pulled from consent by Councilor Hirschler.
Councilor Hirschler.
Thank you again, Your Honor. So a couple of issues here. I'll try to make this brief. One, once again, it appears that the cost estimate were lower than the bids we received. But as importantly, Fiscal Policy Advisory Committee met regarding how we're going to pay for golf course improvements and arena improvements, other improvements for the enterprise funds in the city. But yet, I'd like to ask if the city manager, about a month or so ago, I received an email that I forwarded to you, and I believe Mr. LeBrun, about a group, I believe out of Virginia, that manages municipally owned golf courses. And then then the issue of whether or not it would make sense to lease the golf course. So I don't believe FPAC discussed either one of those issues. So again, as we go forward, putting more funding into the golf course through the general fund, I'm going to remain consistent here, and until I see a report that looks at all our options and comes up with the best outcome, not only for the city, but also reflects the community's wishes, I am going to make a motion to not accept this report.
Is there a second? Seeing none, motion fails for receiving a second. Is there another motion?
Move approval.
Motion made, second, to approve this item. Are you ready for a vote? I just want to note that I'll be voting it because I believe it is in the city's wishes. I was here during the budget like you all were, and I think it was pretty clear, the testimony. So, Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Mayor Bullock.
Yes.
Councilor Champlin.
Yes.
Councilor Cohen.
Yes.
Councilor Hirschlag.
No.
Councilor Kennison.
Yes.
Councilor Carter.
Yes.
Councilor Mattson.
Yes.
Councilor St. Hilaire.
Yes.
Councilor Shurtleff.
Yes.
Councilor Todd.
Yes.
Councilor Warner.
Yes.
And Councilor Bouchard.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Madam Clerk, item 20, please.
It's a resolution repurposing the sum of $28,250 from the 2017 water main replacement subproject, for use on the 2019 water main replacement subproject, and it was pulled from consent by Councilor Hirschlag.
Councilor Hirschlag.
Thank you again. So before I get started here, I just wanted to let folks know that I will be making a motion to place this back on for approval, but I do have a couple of questions. So a little bit out of character here for me. I was, a while back.
Just get to the facts.
Just before Main Street was done, it's my understanding that we lined most of those pipes with a concrete liner underneath Main Street for the project to help ensure that there wouldn't be issues going down the road. My understanding, from what I understand from Mr. Auberge, was that that would be at least as effective as digging the street up and replacing the pipes. When I look at the report, the pipe that failed here, and it's failed on numerous occasions on Commercial Street, was relined with concrete in '99, and it started to fail in 2004. So the question I have is, what assurances do we have that the relining under Main Street will be will offer us a better longevity of those pipes? Is it a different process that we're using currently, or?
So, welcome, Mr. Chesley. Did you hear the question? Would you please respond to the question?
There are a number of reasons why a pipe may fail, and in this instance, I think the lining perhaps did not work. I've been here 15 years. I think this is the first time that I've had the experience of lining pipes for work that was done back in 1999, just didn't apparently work. the quality of pipe changes over years. The native soil that the pipe rests in can contribute to the decay of the pipe over a period of time. So lining a pipe is a repair. It extends the life of the pipe, hopefully to upwards of 100 years. I think it's a pretty good investment. And I think for the most times it works. I would applaud the city of Concord as an engineer coming here, 13, 14 years ago, the investment that this council and previous councils have made in lining their pipes. I meet with other public works directors who wish their mayor and aldermen and city councils were as far-reaching and forward-looking as you folks have been, because our distribution system is in excellent shape. I would put it up against any other distribution system in northern New England as far as reliability. We far exceed AWWA standards. In this one particular instance on Commercial Street was an outlier. We had half a dozen breaks, and it just made sense to take the money, and while we now have a checkerboard series of repairs out there, to cold plane the street and put a final wiring course on it, and that's the purpose of these funds.
If I could just ask a question of Mr. Chesley?
Yeah, that's what he's here for.
Thank you. So the water main that broke last winter by Pleasant Street and Main Street, was that a pipe that had been relined, or was it?
I'd have to check. I don't recall of which particular pipes in the city had been relined. I have to take a look.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions?
All set. I'll make a motion to place this back on consent for approval.
Second.
Motion is to approve this item. Is there a second? Do we have a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Madam Clerk, suspense 1, please.
It's a communication from Warren Street Architects asking that consideration be given to rezone 70 Pembroke Road from Office Performance District to the Opportunity Corridor District. Also amend the OCP district to allow residential social service centers and allow multi-family residential uses anywhere in the district. It's listed as a referral to community development in the planning board.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Mattson, seconded by Councilor Bouchard to refer this to Community Development and Planning Board. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Madam Clerk, suspense 2, please.
It's a resolution accepting and appropriating the sum of $15,000 to support the purchase of a main circulation desk to be funded from the Alice J. Reen Charitable Trust for the library, and it's listed to be set for a public hearing in November.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve this item for a public hearing on November 13th, and it will be our only public hearing on November 13th. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. I have no other business coming before the council tonight. Anyone else? Seeing none, Councilor Kennison moves we adjourn, seconded by Councilor Champlin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Go Red Sox. Good job.